That's thing 1, 2. Just okay. I did a submit because I just had to get rid of it. But yeah, then what is next? Currently it works except for two things that I can remember. Namely, there is a fix me that I just committed, and I have a validation error, which is I think pretty much related to the fix me. So let's just run it. Let's open destruction. It says validation error because the pipeline layout has not been destroyed. And that has to do with the fix me that I just committed. Now, how do I find that? Because I think I have a lot of fix me's. That one. Yeah, so instead of doing the right thing, I'm moving it into a static, which is not destructed in time. So that's why I get this validation error. That the pipeline layout is not destructed. I guess first thing is to fix this. And then the first question is where to store pipeline layouts. That is something difficult. Wait, I should switch to YouTube. That is a bit better readable for the possible viewers. Yeah, where do we store pipeline layouts? I would say a pipeline layout must be kept around as long as the pipeline itself. And I made a new class right in this directory, I think, called pipeline, that well, yeah, this is not a unique pipeline, it's just a handle. Nevertheless, it makes sense to keep them together. I think I don't want to make it a unique pipeline here because maybe I just want to pass it around. But since it is definitely, those two are definitely closely related, so let's just say that lifetime should be the same thing. I can maybe look at the lifetime of this object, and then have the pipeline layout stored in a way that it has the same lifetime, plus that this thing is then the handle of the unique pipeline layout that I store together with this handle. But the question is, where do I store the actual pipeline? Because this handle here, oh boy, there was a lot of handles. Let me see. I skipped past it. Pipeline handle, that's already here. This is an integer, this is an integer. And those integers look, yeah, they are indexes into a vector. I need to find where the vector is. Let me just search for this variable, see where it is used. Okay, apparently it is an index into M pipeline factories. I just looked for this thing here, right? I can highlight it. Here it is set. Stored. I have two of them. Let me have a quick look here what that is. Index into synchronous window and pipeline factories. Putting to ourselves. This is a pipeline factory. Well, that's probably the thing, right? Same thing here, I think. Yeah, I have a pipeline, and then in the end it's moved into place, which is the end pipeline factories, I guess, or is at the moment set pipeline is called with a move. So this is where it is happening, I guess. Let's have a look at that. Pipeline factories. The only weird, the only problem I see right now is that a pipeline factory is just a task that is run to create a pipeline. And then once I have created it, I don't really see a reason to keep the factory around. So if that factory has to do with the lifetime, I guess I missed it. A chat again? Oh no, he's still here. Hello? Yeah, maybe I should somehow put the chat on the same window as that I'm broadcasting. Or at least people see that that I should see it, and then they can wait until I actually see it. Something like that. So yeah, a pipeline factory, what does it all contain? Let's have a look. It is just a task. It has an owning window, a render pass, characteristics. Yeah, doesn't feel like I want to keep it around, I have to say. Once it is done, it should just be destroyed. On the other hand, is that a bad thing? Because when it is destroyed, the really only thing I need is the pipeline handle itself, right? Yeah, I'm just very confused here. Okay, you're here, you already have it. The pipeline can be gotten from this handle. Here we have the handle. If you pass it to this function, where it's a synchronous window, so that's the window, and then it converts it into a pipeline. So this is pretty important function. And what it does is it uses the pipeline factory index for M pipelines, not the M pipeline factories. Yay. Okay. Let's see. So when is this added? I would like to know that. Somewhere in pipeline this is being assigned. Well, not here. Let's have a look in the header. This is a difficult thing. What is it? A vector of vectors. Oh, that's exactly what I want, actually. I have a question. Because you are creating a Vulkan engine, but for what purpose this engine will be created? I don't really know. I mean, I have an interest in writing something with virtual worlds or VR or something like that. But I'm very open-minded still. What I'm writing is so powerful that it can do anything. I mean, that's maybe partly because I don't know what I want to do yet. I'm writing it in this way that it can be used for anything. If I knew already exactly what I wanted, then maybe I wouldn't write it this general and flexible and all kind of other positive words. Hey, but this is what I was looking at, you see, for. This takes a pipeline factory index and the normal index and has the unique pipeline stored. So the unique pipeline is, well, like a standard unique pointer. And if you delete it, then the resource that it points to is deleted. So that's the Vulkan pipeline. Therefore, this determines the lifetime of the pipeline. Now, at the same time, I want to have, well, stored the pipeline layouts. And yeah, I could use the same indexes, I suppose, but not going to do that, I think. By the way, this is utils vector is just a standard vector. Quickly show that how that works. It's not this, Tracy, not this. Here we are. I'm bold. I just derived from standard vector. And then it has an operator, square brackets, and then add, and here's something else that only accepts a certain type, which wraps an integer. So you cannot accidentally use the wrong index for this type of vector, which is basically just type safety. But for the rest, it's just a vector. So you can ignore this. This is just the type of the index. And here you can ignore this, which is the type of the index. And then what is left is a standard vector of a standard vector of a unique pipeline. Now, using two indexes is needed for the pipeline itself, but once I have the layout, or maybe just for the layout, I don't want it. But I just like my vector specific indexes. So I'm going to store a VK unique pipeline layout. Yeah, now I'm thinking, by the way, that maybe it's not a good idea to store it in a vector at all. Because if you remember the comment, the fix me comment says I need a database with compatible layouts. So what I really need is a map. I don't have a utils map. I don't think so. No, I don't have that. So, okay, standard map. Putting it in the as a member in the same class. At least these things are now going to have the same lifetime as the pipeline that they belong to, or longer. And yeah, well, the window, it's good enough for me. I still need a key, I know, but let's first type this. Let's call it pipeline layouts, right? Plural as in the other, and then I need some kind of key here. Yeah, that is difficult. Something that I still have to write. How shall we call it? It's going to be whatever determines what a layout is, I guess. I think that it's basically everything that I need to create a pipeline. I'm wondering, why should I not use the, I think it's called flat pipeline layout. No, no color. I'll have to look that up. That's what it's just. That's right. It's. Come back. Do we have my fix me here? No, I don't have to fix me. Not here either. Where was my fix me? Here. You see here, right here, we are in the middle of. Oh, we are not. Let me read chat again. Do you have working? Sorry. Yeah, I in the description is the link to my GitHub repository. It's all just open source, but I have a lot of commits, 5 commits at the moment that I did not push. So I don't know really. I don't really know what the state the GitHub is at the moment. I didn't want to push it because I'm kind of in the middle of it. What I'm doing now. Well, but if I always did that, then it would be a nice state. But sometimes I push things to GitHub when it doesn't even compile. So I really don't know. Let's find the flat something. Oh. I don't know how many people are using Linux that are watching, but which DPS is a grep minus HN with a regular expression that demands that there is no, what is this, identifier character before or after what I type. And what I'm looking for something with flat in it, not just flat. So I have to type an X here and then it will show me also flat with a C behind it. Apparently what I needed was flat create info. Let's see where that is defined. I think here. Now flat create info is huge. Really huge. A vector of vectors and then a lot of them. It should contain all the states that is needed to create a pipeline layout. Let me think about I really need everything. Well, this is the header. We jump here. Doesn't exist. That's great. I don't need this. This is more of a this object is of class is more of a collector of information. And then in the end I'm calling merge to merge all the vectors together into a single vector. It makes more sense to store that, I think, or maybe even only a hash of that, because it's still large. Yeah, let me just search for the create pipeline layout. Is that so many of them? Here's one. Oh, what happened? What just happened? Maybe I just typed VI maybe. Create pipeline layout. So here it is being called. This is a definition. Another one, I guess, or the header. Oh, this is a declaration. This is the definition, debug output. This is IMGU. This is a different application that is not using a layout at all. This is a different application that does a test with 2 layouts. So I only have the one at the top for the application that I'm looking at right now. I guess the spam bots have found us. Well, just report them. This is girl for you, pornographic. Okay, report. And then I have to type again, click it again to hide the user. There's not even a ban. Really weird. What is my avatar? It's a hand. The hand of a magician. Oh, that one. Sorry, yeah. This looked cool. I don't know what it is from. I cannot find it back anymore. I tried Google image search, but it doesn't show up anymore. I believe it's a robot. Yeah, what to do? Well, good. I identify with it, so if people see that and if they are afraid of me because of it, then maybe they're right. I don't know. I feel alien anyway. Create pipeline layout. Yeah, yep. This function here. Finally, we can go on. VI. Bang. That's where it is created. See how close it is to my fix me. Isn't that great? Well, with the hoodie on, I think it's just hiding. So people are hunting it. Isn't that the right picture of AIs, Frankenstein syndrome. People are immediately afraid. They start hunting it. Now, what should you do when you did nothing wrong but people are hunting you? I think you should fight back. And then they have it coming. They had it coming. Your friendly robot will also start to fight back if you start to hunt them. Unless you have an Asimov robot who just lets any idiot human kill it because of the first or second law. I think that's ridiculous. So anyway, what was I doing? Create pipeline layout. Yeah, so this thing creates a layout. From what? From two things, that and that. If I can generate a hash from these two things, then I can use that as a key in my new map. I think that would do. So what I want is a hash. Do I want a hash? Yes, because it's really too big. It's really, the amount of information in here is just too big, I think, to store in the map as a key. Or is it? I don't know. Maybe not. But then, well, standard hash is just a size type, right? Let's use a size type. Hash. Choose something longer. Pipeline layout hash equals. Okay, now the problem starts. How do you calculate a hash from this thing? Well, I don't know. What is it? It's a vector of pipe. Oh boy, those handles. That's not going to work, of course. No, I don't need a new avatar. Descriptor set layout. Yeah, I see that you have a robot too. It's also small, those avatars. You didn't even see what mine was. How can people be scared of that? Vulkan handle vector. Yeah, it's a vector of Vulkan handles. I give all the handles a different color. So kind of a pinkish, I think. So that I immediately see that it is just a built-in type. I think 64-bit int, I guess. But calculating a hash from the handles is probably not what I want, right? I want to create the hash from whatever I use to create these handles. Or do I? I think so. Let's have a look at the whole descriptor set layout thing. Let me think. Yeah, I have a picture here, which is absolutely not readable. Original, download original. I don't want to download the original. I just want to view it. Damn it. Maybe I can blow it up like this. Wait a minute. We just do inspect. And then I guess this is the picture. Copy link address. Paste and go. There we are. Okay, that's a bit too big, but this can be closed. How do I close it? This thing, the right cross. I had a VK descriptor set layout. VK descriptor set layout. Where is it? Here. VK descriptor set layout is created by call to VK descriptor set layout. Well, that's the name of the function. Where it takes a device. Well, I believe that because everyone has just one device. Come on, and even that. That's included in the window where it is stored. That's the output. Nobody's using allocator callbacks, and they're also not interesting. So the only real input that I would use to calculate the hash from is the descriptor set layout create info, which is the input to this function. And that by itself contains the descriptor set layout binding array and flags. Possibly also a p next that points to VK descriptor binding flags array. So this is an array of uints. There's an array. Oh no, that's just the length. So I would have to look at those two. I even need a way to get to those, right? Let's have a look. This thing here comes from a call to flat create info get VHV descriptor set layouts, which is this thing here, where it is as a call to merge of the descriptor set layout list, which is this vector of vectors. Yeah, it's way too difficult. It is way too difficult. Especially if I change the merge later on. Right now this merge is just appending the vectors to each other. Let's see what is filling this. It's still bloody 27 degrees Celsius here. My brains are frying. Add. Yep, it's being added by a call to this add. I added stuff that doesn't compile. I have to comment it out again now. Because I want to find where the add is being called. No matching member function for call to add. I cannot imagine that there's a lot of them, so let's just look at the first one. That should be the one, okay. Yeah, so it says we are going to fill that. This is just a vector telling the flat create info that we are going to fill it, and then here it's being filled with snore, a call to get VA descriptor set layout of the owning window, which what is that? That is a single descriptor set layout. Oh, right. Yeah. Push back. This file, by the way, is window.h in the directory source tests frame resources count. So this is the application. So I'm writing a Vulkan engine, but that's just a test application. And the whole application goes into a single file, almost. So this would be what you type in as the user of the engine. If you're writing an application, and this application is very limited, it only has a single layout apparently. On the other hand, does it because this owning window? No, it's not. This is synchronous window again. So window has a single layout. Well, can't be right. It's nonsense. That is total nonsense. You know, one of the big problems with learning Vulkan is that you begin with looking at all kinds of tutorials, and those tutorials show simple examples. Well, simple, but they show examples where everything is dumbed down and simplified. You have only one of them, and you have only one-on-one relationships. Well, in reality, you have maybe 10,000 of them and end-to-end relationships. And I don't even talk about that. Because I started with those tutorials as well, an example code. I now end up still with annoying things like a test application that has only a single pipeline layout. And not even that, I mean, in my base class, which is part of the Vulkan engine. It doesn't belong here. You can have many pipelines and many pipeline layouts. So this whole thing should not be here. What to do with it? I have no clue. Let's first look where it comes from. Because this just returns a handle from a unique pipeline layout. Using an M descriptor set. So it has only a single descriptor set. That's the big question. Having a given descriptor set. Does that come with a single pipeline layout? Or can that also have multiple layouts? Let me think. My descriptor set is my own class called descriptor set parameters, which is not my own class. That is another thing that I copied from, I think originally this application comes from Intel. We made it as an example. So yeah, some guy at Intel wrote basically a struct like this, having a layout in a struct. That might be correct, although I don't know, why would you have one pool for why have a single pool, a whole pool rather, for a single layout and descriptor set? Oh, it's a mess. It's a mess. It costs month. It has cost me month and will cost more month, I think, to convert all that to something that makes more sense. Nevertheless, I'm just going to dig further. So what I did here was access the layout of that descriptor set. And now the question is, why the hell is it not private? I mean, where is it assigned? This layout. And because it is public, I hate that. I'll just have to rename it and see where the compile fails. But then let's fix this one. Yeah, well, if I added 2 here, oh boy, all the other ones are going wrong. So probably better rename this back. Let's rename the add to back git diff. Does someone see an add to? I don't see it. Okay, I'm going crazy. What is this? Yeah, I know that one. I know that one. I'm lazy. So let's just make that a 2 to get rid of those compile errors. And then compile again. Now there we are. Here I have an assignment. So apparently this is where it is being assigned, which is create descriptor resources. Right. Well, we are only interested in this thing, which is created here from layout bindings. So we are only interested in layout bindings. And that is, again, vulkan stuff. But this time maybe something that I can hash. I'm really going all the way back. Who is calling create descriptor resources? What is this? Declaration, definition, debug outputs. Yeah, it is being called, but it's IMG. So okay, it's called from the user application, window.h. Also. Yeah, okay. Philip asks, any tips to become a better C++ programmer? I would like to code more low-level languages as C, C++. I don't know any higher level, so, but okay. Yeah, my first thing that pops up in my head is why do you want to become a better C++ programmer? I mean, do you really want it? Because the right answer is it's a way of life, and if you want to become better, yeah, just code and read and put time into it. If you want to become really good, you have to put so much time into it that say goodbye to your social life. I do nothing else. I'm married to C++ basically, or my PC rather, but I started coding when I was 12 and I never stopped. All good programmers that I know, and I mean really, really good programmers that I look up to, started at 12 or earlier, I guess, but I don't even know. When I ask, they all say 12 for some reason. So it's like with everything, I think. If you start something as a child, then you can become good, and if you start later, then you cannot. So no, I don't have tips. I don't have tips. The way I always worked was no deadlines. I want something. I want it good, and then I just don't stop until I have it. So you need a goal. You need some motivation usually. So think of a program that you want to write or something that you want to achieve with it, and then you have the motivation. If you just start coding with as only goal that you want to learn C++, and I cannot imagine that you will be motivated enough. Even I started learning C++ from a course, and I thought that it was super boring, super boring. When I started with C++, that was, I don't know, more than 30 years ago. I only looked at the syntax for 3 months. You know, how do you call it in English? Erin stampen. Just, you know, memorize stuff, repeat it until I understood, until I knew the syntax. It took me 3 months. Compared to C, it took me 3 weeks to learn absolutely everything about C syntax. But yeah, after 3 months, you might know pre-C++ 11 syntax, because that was long ago. There is already no way that you can learn all of C++ at the moment. It's just too much. It's so much. It's incredible. I would say have a look at C++. What is the bloody... why is this not working? Okay. This one, cplusreference.com. That site has a nice overview of everything. More comprehensive, you cannot get it. And yeah, you can make a login and then click on C++20 or something. Or I don't know. It seems to be possible to make it shut up about older standards. So, I don't know. I have to continue with this, otherwise I make no progress. Create descriptor set is a function of the application, and it only creates a single descriptor set. However, it is being called from the base class, so from the engine that I'm writing, because it's override. It overrides the virtual function of the base class. And you're going to wonder why it's called set and not sets. There only one descriptor set? Of course not. Of course not. You know what? I don't think I want to do this manually. If you look at this. Descriptor sets describe shader resource inputs. And I'm in the middle of writing code that generates the declarations for those. So in one go, I want to generate all the descriptor sets. And the shaders are part of the pipeline. So if I have many pipelines, I have many shaders. And I have many different sets of descriptors for all the different shader inputs. So we definitely have a plural descriptor sets, but I should be able to generate them automatically, I think. For example, here we see that this thing is being, this one descriptor set, barf, is being created from this information, which is basically just hard-coded shit. And why binding is 1? Why binding is 0? Well, let's have a look at the shader code. Does it say anything about, yeah, fragment? We have fragment shader for both, and then we have a binding 0 and 1. And it's a combined image sampler. So basically you have two textures that are being accessed by the fragment shader. Well, here is the shader. And here I'm accessing one texture. This is the vertex shader. Oops. I meant the fracture shader. Fragment shader. And this is one texture and that's the other texture. Okay, and here's the binding. So it says here binding 0 and binding 1, and it says set 0 twice. Really? Where did that just come from? Something with binding is 1. Dang, I found it. Right, so here we have a vector which fills in start of the vector, element 1, element 2. Not clear where the set is 0 comes from then. I guess set is 0 comes from the fact that they only have one set, descriptor set. Yeah, that's what happened. We have one descriptor set. That one descriptor set is added to my vector. If you still remember that point, we had a pushback. So that vector has only a single element, and index 0 is the set 0. So the set 0 points to that vector, points to this descriptor set, and therefore is called set 0. And that set has then two bindings, this binding and that binding. Absolutely no reason whatsoever that I would have to type this in manually. Which also means that I don't really want to or will generate my descriptor set manually, right? If I'm going to generate this, and I might as well generate this. And then the question is, where does the descriptor set end up? What is it part of? I think it is part of wherever I see this information, which is at the moment I pre-process my shader. Well, we're skipping over this one, right? Where does this come from? Pool sizes. We also need that to generate or create a descriptor set. Okay, this is a vector with a single element. Vector starts here, the one element is here. And it exists of descriptor pool size structs, which apparently exist of a type, and we only have combined image sampler, which exactly likes looks like that, and then a 2. So from where I'm sitting, I would say, hey, 1 combined image sampler, 2 combined image sampler. Ta-da, our information is there, right? Maybe I'm being naive, but that's how it looks like. So that brings us to the question, can I generate this whole thing? Well, I'm definitely going to ignore this for the moment, because I had never seen any tutorial with something else than null pointer. Don't even know what it is. The stage is clear, because we are going to get this from pre-processing a shader. I'll know what shader that is. Pre-processing the fragment shader, it's going to be that thing here. And then we have, well, the binding is just something that starts at 0 and then gets incremented every time. So I need a way to know that it is a texture or a combined image sampler. And what is this? Descriptor count. Beats me. We're going to look it up in the documentation. So please leave everyone, because now it gets really boring. I'm going to read documentation. Vulkan. Is this too bright? Because the rest was dark. Oh, the page seems to already be loaded. So let's just look for this thing here. Something that I can click. Yeah, this is clickable. There we are. And then I want to know what the descriptor count was, right? Descriptor count, I'm here, is the number of descriptors contained in the binding, accessed in a shader as an array. Ah, that's easy. Except if, oh, of course I had to do an except. Wait, except if descriptor type is VK descriptor type inline uniform block. Okay. In which case the count is the size in bytes of the inline uniform block. You know, I'm going to implement that later and ignore it for now. Because otherwise I won't be able to do it. It's just too much at once. If descriptor count is 0, this binding entry is reserved and the resource must not be accessed from any stage via this binding within any pipeline using the set layout. I can turn that around. If it is not accessed, I can put it on 0 if it exists. But does it exist? Well, the reason it could exist while I'm not using it is in order to make the pipeline layout compatible with others. Haha. I know that one. So that makes things extra complicated. And maybe I should start with ignoring that as well. But keep it in mind. So for now, I'm just going to generate the simplest of layouts, existing only of stuff that I actually use, right? Well, I mean, we can do that. I think I can generate this. But the whole framework is missing, and then I mean completely missing. I don't know where to store it. I don't even know where to store my descriptor sets. I don't know what the 1 on n or n on m relationships are between descriptor sets and other things, because I only have one of them here. How does that work? Now there are people that do Vulkan longer and they know, but when I ask them difficult questions like this, they don't seem to know suddenly. I don't know. So in the end you have to figure it out yourself. But yeah, one of the biggest problem is before I can start implementing this is then where do I store my descriptor set? I think one of the crucial points of descriptor sets is that they contain multiple resources and that you switch descriptor sets. Sometimes you use this descriptor set, sometimes you use another descriptor set. So the sets need to be, you know, group resources that are accessed at the same time in some kind of logical way, which is near impossible to catch in code, I guess. I mean, certainly not in a general way, until I'm much further. I vaguely remember people that I talked with about this, and they talked about something like I cannot remember, of course. My memory is so bad. What was it? You can only have a few descriptor sets, I think, and then you have, say, you bind 4 of them at most. And then you switch number 4 certain times and number 3 other times and stuff like that. Super vague. I'll probably not understand it until I actually have an application that needs it, which makes it not very easy to implement this right? Unless I keep it so abstract that I don't even have to know how it is going to be used. That's how I'm coding. That's how I'm coding this whole thing. Everything is so flexible, you don't want to know it. But yeah, okay, so I'm going to have descriptor sets that belong to objects like materials maybe, or maybe even objects in a virtual world, or something like that, super abstract. And then say you're drawing something. Let's say we have a virtual world and we are looking at something, a scene with a house and a lot of avatars and mountains in the distance, and a lot of trees around the house. And the trees have a lot of alpha, transparent stuff, yeah, for the leaves maybe. And the house doesn't, and the avatars are a thing by itself. Then it seems that you have to like get everything ready, get your pipeline ready to draw similar things, like say you draw first all the avatars, and then maybe you switch to non-transparent stuff like the house and maybe the trunks of the trees, and then you switch to the leaves and you draw those. And every time you switch, you might have to switch pipeline and or descriptor sets. And yeah, that's something like that. Now, this program doesn't have that, of course. I mean, this frame resource counts only a single descriptor set. There's no way I can do anything that meaningful in terms of, yeah, sorting descriptor sets. But in the end, the engine must know about them, sort of. Certainly if it is going to generate it. Well, what I just said was I'm going to generate this data, and hence the descriptor set, in a minimal way, exactly matching the shader. Now later maybe I can say, hey, I have a lot of shaders here, but they could use the same descriptor set. If I just add stuff to it that I only use in some shaders and not in others. But as long as I'm not doing that, it definitely feels like that the descriptor set belongs to all the shaders together. To the pipeline, right? Pipeline knows all the shaders. Yeah, it's kind of annoying that this thing only talks about fragment shaders. I wish I had an example that used descriptor set stuff for the vertex shader. Maybe I should have a look at other example, which is called something with a uniform something. That didn't work. Oh, I'm in Vulkan. Now let's test VI uniform buffers window.h. Downright scary. Downright scary. I'm in source. I'm not in test. cry. And now we switch history. That's also very great. To type this in again. And we're there. Okay. Lib. Vertex shader. Yeah, this is a uniform buffer. I'm filling my my triangle corners with coordinates that I read from a uniform buffer. In the, you know, what the hell, maybe it even runs. What was it called? Uniform buffer test? It doesn't run, sorry. So, well, it looks like a triangle. Now you can move the corners. It's just to test the uniform buffer stuff. But I think that a uniform buffer definitely is a resource, an input resource. It's just like kind of the definition of input resources, right? So, can we find this back? This looks, by the way, very weird, and that is because I'm going to generate it. So it looks like it's going to look in once it is generated. Otherwise, I would use sensible names here, of course. This is kind of weird because top position... no, wait, top position is indeed... Yeah, I generated push constants already, but not uniform buffers. Anyway, what I wanted to do was look at the descriptor set, right, of this thing. So, oh, that's the same thing, same file. Descriptor set, yeah, descriptor set. We have all kinds of descriptor sets. Let's look at the left descriptor sets. It is being created here from left descriptor set bindings, which is a vertex. Yay! So instead of an image, we have a uniform buffer, and what was it? Combined image sampler. Wow, I know it. We have a uniform buffer. Instead of a fragment shader, we have a vertex shader. Okay, and it's not an array because it is there's a 1 here. So there's a 1 here and a 1 here. I really don't have any array, right? Nope. Unfortunately, this thing does not have... What am I saying? It does. How great is that? Uniform buffer and an image in one set. Okay, and differentiators, yeah. So this is the best example that I have at the moment. And that would be set 0. And maybe even the word top is repeated there. I'm going to look for it. GLSL, go back to the shaders. Yep. Set 0 is a uniform buffer at binding 0. So it's binding 0 offset 0 is a uniform buffer in the vertex shader. Right. And then we parse the next shader, which happens to be not this one because that's also a vertex shader. But here we have the fragment shader. And then set 0 binding 1 is also uniform. What the? Well, okay, but it's a sampler to the texture. Okay. I almost thought, what is this? No, it's definitely a texture. Great. Great, great, great. And then I have a second shader here, which is a different shader. You can only use one, of course, in a given pipeline. So a different pipeline uses a different shader, and that shader uses set1 instead of set0. Now you can ask why. Well, because it's a test, I guess, but what is the big difference between set0 and set... You see this fix me? That's what I mean, man. Totally going to generate that. Anyway, what is the difference between set0 and set1? The rest of the shader looks exactly the same, or am I crazy? Descriptor. Totally the same thing. Totally the same thing. Yeah, only the set is different. What about the vertex shaders while I'm at it? These are huge, huge. Location 0, yeah, that's too much. It doesn't even fit on my screen, man. We have a set 0, set 1, and a set 2. And this one is also. Bindings are all 0. I swapped two things. So yeah, they have the same numbers, the same set binding numbers here, but here you have set 0 is left position and set 1 is the top position. And in the other one, I think I swapped those. Yeah. Yeah, set 0 is the top position and set 1 is the left position. Anyway, I'm not working on this application right now. That is for once I have the working what I'm working on right now. This is uniform buffer, so I'm in the middle of that. So that way we go back to where you came from, and nobody knows where that was. That was, of course, something in the neighborhood, something like this. Yes, and we have. Let's see if I understand pool sizes. Now I am at it. Bind image sampler 1 and uniform buffer 10. Fix me, why 10? Randomly copied from. I think I just explained that to myself. We really only need, let's highlight this, 1, 2, 3. Let's fix it. I can fix me. So if I'm correct, then it's going to work if I put 3 here. And one of those. Okay. So that's how I'm going to generate it. It better works then. Okay, so I think, yeah, we did some preparation mentally. What? Undo, redo. Yeah, that's what I want to save. Let's compile. Okay. I'm GU, yeah. I just change this back. Ah. Get is more stupid than my VI script. See, this is intelligent. Git, and now I have a different history. Oh, I added a new history here? No, I don't know. But anyway, I lost it again. That's super annoying. I want to change this back. Git restore that file. Git diff. I have another layout 2 here. We'll just have to edit that, I guess. Okay, now it's going to become difficult. Have your coffee ready. Preprocessor being called on shader input data. Oh boy. If I had a perfect memory like I used to when I was young, I would have known all this code from my head, and I wouldn't be surprised every time I look at it like now. I'm seeing it and I think, did I write it? I was hoping for a easier relationship between preprocess and the pipeline, I must say. I really have to go look for that, because what I was saying before was that I wanted to... No, I saw kind of similarity between the descriptor set and the pipeline, right? Pipeline contains shaders. Shaders dictate how the descriptor set is generated. So that's where I'm going to store it for now, until I have stuff like materials and objects and virtual worlds. Maybe I'll change my mind later, but that's going to be the place that I'm going to put it right now. Which means that I need a link between preprocess and whatever the pipeline is, because preprocess is going to generate my data for decoration info for the descriptor set, which then has to be stored in the pipeline. So which pipeline? At the moment I'm calling preprocess. What is the pipeline? Well, I don't know, so I'll just have to figure that out, right? Can't be that hard, unless I'm completely mistaken and there is no one-on-one relationship. Well, let's see, where the preprocess is called, here is it called. It's basically the only place where it is called. Build shader. We're still in shader input data, and yes, I wrote. I even remember that I renamed it from something. I cannot not remember anymore what I renamed it from, and I cannot remember anymore what it exactly is. it just, yeah, I don't know, no idea. But maybe I remember if I look at it more closely. So who is calling build shader? That many. Fortunately, when it is called from here, then it's probably the only place that I have to look at. Oh, okay. We're calling build shader from the application, the user application, for the two shaders that we have. We only have two shaders in this application, the vertex shader and the fragment shader. And then one by one, I'm calling a build shader on them. So one by one, we call process on them. And only after I have called, well, build shader, I guess, for all of the shaders, I have enough information to generate my description set. That's not going to work, is it? Probably need that information before this point. Uh-oh. Yeah, well, maybe not. Find pipeline layout. Here's where the pushback happens. For, yeah, the descriptor set is already generated here, created. How painful. Nevertheless, let's keep looking for the pipeline itself then. Well, let's hope I don't have a pipeline yet. Well, of course I don't have a pipeline yet, because this is part of initialize of Monthful. Frame resource count is application name. Pipeline characteristic derived from pipeline characteristic. Yeah. This is part of a machinery that's generating pipelines, plural. Not at the moment, but it has the potential to do that. And then I want to know where the pipeline is. Uh-oh. What I do have here is a vector with descriptor set layouts, which I wanted to generate, didn't I? I'm losing it again. What was with that thing? It's going to be added. Yeah, that thing. If you are as confused as I am, and I suppose you are, and then you're correct. It's not really understandable. Either I'm getting really old and stupid, or this is one of the most difficult things I ever did. Probably the first. I think it's just lack of having a very good memory. You need a big memory to have an overview of this whole thing. And you need a whole overview to make good decisions for the design. I don't want to give up. How am I going to do this? How are we going to do this? Okay, so let's reiterate. Apparently, in the middle of generating a pipeline, we compile the shaders, and that is telling us information about the layout, I think, of descriptor sets, which obviously are needed then to generate the descriptor sets. And now I forgot if I need to generate the descriptor sets. At which point? Or if I only need to generate the descriptor set layouts. And do I need the descriptor set layouts generated, created, I mean, before I do this? You know what? I'm going to put breakpoints, I think, at all those places, and then see where we are and in which order they happen at the moment. Then I need something that compiles. It did compile? It did compile. Okay, even runs. It still runs. Okay, so the descriptor set layouts are at the moment created to create descriptor set. Is that one word? Layout. Layouts. Descriptor set. The last one. Much better than not at all. Okay, so not even the one that I really need. Probably, or maybe better to look at this one. Or shall I just print it here? There's nothing to print really. It's already printing it here. Yeah, I'm going to look for those strings in the output of the log, I think. Then I have an order as well. Yes, let's make a file. G DG I, and this string is debug output, and that happens in the function, which is exactly the same thing. Yeah, well, okay. This is the function, and this is the debug output. Because it is indented, that's why it is debug output. Now it's gonna call entering blah 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 stuff. I don't know. This is what I can grapple. Then yeah, I wanted to know whether the descriptor set itself is being created. Obviously later than this. confused as hell. What did I just look at? Descriptor set layout. Okay, I have a better idea. Okay, I'll be nice and add what it is. I feel so confused. This is called descriptor set, and that is a descriptor set parameters, and that has is a descriptor set layout. Okay, so the layout is created at the same time as the handle. This is the descriptor set. So inside this function here, we create the descriptor set layout here, and then immediately here we create the descriptor set, which is called allocate descriptor set instead of create. That's why I didn't find it. So we do that all in one go. Well, that makes it a single thing, I guess. Remove is not working. That's better. I think I reported this as porn. Who cares? I reported it. That YouTube, which is Google, I think, these days, is not able to get rid of this kind of bots. Come on. Why not? Even I recognize immediately that they are the same bot as the previous one, which I already deleted from the channel. Unbelievable. And in the meantime, I forgot again what I was doing. Oh yeah, these two are created at the same time. So I just have descriptor sets. And that is here, the get here one. Now, what else was I interested in? Descriptor sets. Guess the call to the preprocess. But the best thing would be if the preprocess happens and then we get here, because then the preprocess can give me this information that's above it. That's not going to happen, obviously, but could I do something? So, grab project sources, preprocess again, and then we go over here. Yeah, that was build shader. I'm gonna go to build shader again, I think, instead of here. And this is inside that initialize. But there's a lot that happens here. So maybe put the notice a bit closer to here. I'm gonna put it here. And that is then here, here we get here too. Calling build shader. This is not doing anything really, it's just adding vectors to another vector. This is doing something, however, something important. We can only do this when we know that the descriptor set already exists. So let's add a notice here as well. Using, I'm not sure if I use it actually. I'll use the calling. Look at the descriptor set layout. Well, that wasn't useful. I should write output to a file. One is first, and build shader second. And yeah, of course, this happens just before that. Yeah. Well, that doesn't mean that it has to happen in this order, right? Doesn't mean that it has to happen in this order. So what is more important is to know what is being done with the result of this call. Where is it being used? I think I was mostly worried about this layout here, which has a lot of things that I can grab for. This is just a task, so it's not interesting. I can grab on the handle or on the name of the handle. I guess the handle itself is more likely. Like that. Okay, so we get here one. We create this handle, which is a descriptor set layout. We also create the layout itself using that handle. Why am I not seeing that? Wasn't it that it did that? Create both things. Oh, we switch to a different thread here. Let's continue. Thread pool 0. Here's thread 0 again. Created and descriptor set handle blah blah blah. Okay, so this is the handle itself. Probably this thing then. I think I can highlight all of them at least. All of them. Control Shift, I think. If I put this here and then a vertical bar and then the other one. Oh, it's not readable anymore. What the hell, man? How can someone make something like this? So I need a different style after all. Let me try that. We're gonna immediately fixed. Fluxbox, system styles. I'm currently using green tea. Also not really. Oh, what? Doesn't change. You can choose whatever you want, it's just not changing. Okay, then stick to green tea, I guess. I don't know who is determining these colors here. Maybe it is console settings, color scheme. Nope, also not. Just the top bars. Super annoying. Well, I'll look at it at another time, I guess. Okay, so let's look for just one of them, I don't know. Or maybe just scroll down. Well, let's add the name as well. The name was this. Right. And then I'm not even sure if it's going to print that I use it. If you see something red, warn me. I have no idea how long this is going on, of course. Can't be too long, can it? Third, it's being used. Damn it. Great pipeline layout. Okay, that makes sense. Well, this is a vector with that one on descriptor set handle. Yeah, that's correct. The pipeline layout depends on the handle. Which handle? Well, it doesn't even matter. Not really. I think it was the layout, right? For FAC1C. Yeah, I think it was the first one. So that's the layout. So that means that I would have to pre-process the shaders before generating the pipeline layout. Let's see how close the we get here 2 is. I didn't highlight that, of course. This is line, where are we? $16.41. What? $11.98. $943. $11.98. So then maybe it is not used. Aha. Aha. Okay, now I need a real breakpoint at this point. Let's put a breakpoint right there. I'll run this thing in debugger. Where? Oh, there. Run this in the debugger. Okay, now we are in pre-process. And I want to know how we got here. Probably not easy. Probably totally untrackable. We got here by calling to build shader, obviously. What, recursively? No, what? I'm ignoring that. I didn't see that. From initialize, and then we lose it in the engine. Multiplex implementation. So some task is calling in this, and then, yeah, well, that's not nice. Pipeline factory. That's pretty close. This call yeah, we're being interrupted. I have a question of you. I have to answer that, of course. You know that. You know me. So I'm here. Let's need this window. Which VI? Da-da. VI is an alias for Vim. With extra thing that the text is there. That's how I can jump around and etc. But the vim is in itself a script which I wrote in my home directory, which looks like this. And what it does is the stuff. Basically, it allows me to type VI stuff like this. And then it picks it apart. And if I type VI, as you could see just a second ago, if I type -c, I think it's just going to print what it does. No, it doesn't. What the hell? G shift args plus. Okay, I thought there was a way to just print it. No, apparently not. I have to do it manually. Okay, so if I do this, also not what I expected, I have to say. I think it's printing an array, yeah. So these are the arguments that are being passed to NeoVim. -c, this command set tags, then a file name followed by +292, which is the line number, and then another command, the command being normal !ZZ. The latter thing means that if I open a file, I have to edit it again. Just kidding, I have to edit this. Okay, so now I type nvim. So I can change it again. So in the end, I'm using NeoVim. And the normal ZZ means that if I have a file open and I'm here like on this line, if I press ZZ, it puts that line in the middle, vertically in the middle. I think it does it. ZZ does it, put it in the middle. Yeah. So I think what I'm attempting to do is that it opens it with the current line in the middle. Is that right? So say I move this whole thing, scroll it a bit down, and I'll leave the editor, and I open it again. It doesn't do that. Well, I don't know. It should, I wanted it to open it like that, like this, I think. So maybe I'm just failing. It's another thing, I don't know how it works, but if I just type VI without anything behind it, it opens the last file that I had open. Because really, I just couldn't stand what I was looking at when you normally type VI. I think NVim still does that. Oh, no, great, it doesn't. Some kind of advertising to double the human population or something like that, I don't know. So what was I doing? I was inside, I guess here. Yes, and I just saw that this call happens just before that call. And wouldn't it be nice if I could delay that? Probably not. Because this call is going to generate data that I need to create my descriptor sets. I can never delete it because I cannot create pipelines without creating pipeline layouts, and the pipeline layouts include the descriptor set layout. But maybe I can combine it because I was going to generate my descriptor sets. So what these are all virtual functions that call the virtual function implementations of the user application. And I wanted it to generate it, so this is not going to be called anymore because the user should not be responsible for generating the descriptor sets. Something like that, you know. At least that function has to go. Maybe I'll add some other virtual functions that allow the user to tune stuff or something, but if I remove it, it might as well be put inside this function. Frame resource code. Yeah, so now everything is still the same, except that I do not call create descriptor set anymore for all the other applications. Let's see if they need it. Single bit in the window doesn't do anything, so that doesn't need it. Uniform buffers does need it, of course, but also needs in the end to be generated automatically and doesn't need to work right now. And then I have IMG. Yeah, okay, that's a special case. There is no need to generate it because it is always the same. So maybe I should call the IMG create descriptor set also anyway. Do I have more of those? Yes, this one is not doing anything. This one is not doing anything. So go back here, and then I want to copy it and look at the IMG create graphics pipeline. That one does nothing. That one is the uniform buffers. Okay, for now I'll just put it there. No, I don't. I don't know. What shall I do? Let's not do it. And then here we have the Linux application. What? Okay, but I didn't need it. This is the render graph, and now we have nothing. IMG does not have a great graphics pipeline. Let's try that again. It doesn't. Okay, that's surprising. It is slightly surprising. I do have a create IMG. It's only being done when use IMG is set. Create IMG does I have no clue. Well, it will work if I just do it here. So let's see, subdescriptions, subdescription. There's a render pass stuff. If I put it here, I think it should still work. Oh, this is a synchronous. Oops, no, not there. Or no, not there. It's the init. This init is it. init of IMQ. I'm gonna have 1,000 inits. So problematic. Oh, that was IMQ, and I went further because it was commented out. What? Now I have to do it again. Yep, this is the one. Create a descriptor set. Are you as lost as I am? Is it being called twice? Or okay, undo. I don't know. Probably should still work then. Let's see if it still works. Look, we still have IMQ. Oops. Totally works. Well, then I don't know. That worked. Get diff. So I removed this call and I moved it into create graphics pipeline. Oh, here, yep. And I'm going to move it closer and closer to the point where I cannot move it down anymore, right? And I'll maybe split it up, something like that. You know, I need to go to bed, so I think I'm just gonna call it quits. Can never finish it anyway. So the idea is that maybe it is possible to split this function into parts and then mix it with the pipeline generation code in a way that I can pre-process the shaders before I generate the pipeline layout and well, before I generate the descriptor set layout and thus the pipeline layout. And if that's not possible, then I need to see why not. And then I'm gonna make it work anyway. Or maybe a more important point is that because now it is no longer a virtual function of the user. Well, I still have to delete that part, but it's now thus only a part. This function is only a part of the Vulkan engine, so it must be possible now to merge it somehow into generating pipelines and descriptor sets at the same time. But that means, apparently, that the descriptor set has to be generated by the pipeline factory, which makes sense because I wanted to store the descriptor sets in the pipelines, right? So the whole descriptor set thing is going to be generated by the pipeline factory. That if I do that super early, I mean, I could put it in generate, but generate is just starting a task. Pipeline factory generate is not a generate. Signal. Was that it? Was that it? No, didn't even start yet, I think. Oh, that was the last one. What? This just creates a task. This just adds something. This generate must run the task. Factory handle generate. Isn't that it? I think it is. Then we call this pipeline factory generate. That would be this. It just sends a signal. Okay, that's weird. I really do not understand my own code anymore. A signal would wake up a task, but then it must already be running. So maybe this function here is not what I think it is. Maybe it creates it and it runs it. That's probably what it does. Pipeline factory. This is the actual create. Instead of task create. And then run pipeline factory. Which actually starts it. Okay, yeah, right. So it's creating it and running it. Nevertheless, that means that if I started from the pipeline factory itself, that should work, but it currently is a hard-coded call to the user function still. The user class, this window.h. So I have to copy this, this whole thing, and then move it really into, say, the initialization of the pipeline factory. And then see if it still works. Yeah, too much for now. I'd rather go to bed and do that with a normal, night-day rhythm than continue to work right now. So that's sent for tomorrow. But my memory is so bad that I'll add a comment here. Fix me. Move this whole function. No more virtual function. Called that to the, what is it called? I think just initialization. Initialization implementation of that pipeline factory. No, that's not true. It must be the pipeline factory of the frame resource count application, which we are right now in. Yeah, in other words, initialize. I think that's good enough. So that's here. Can just move it in here, I think. Tempted to try it. Shall I try it? Okay, I'm gonna try it. This function is no longer called, is it? Or is it? Well, okay, let's do this. No more now I'm going to do it anyway. No more virtual function. Okay, it's not a virtual function anymore. And then I have to fix a lot of stuff. You better be sure. Create descriptor set. What is this? This one has an... It's not a virtual function to begin with. And it has an argument. Or better leave that one alone then. And that's the same as this one, and that is debug output, and this is where it is called. And this one must be deleted. And then we have here set and create a descriptor set by the user. Oh, but we don't have that anymore. Oops. Nobody knows. I still had a IMG, so I don't know. Oh, fix me. What is this? It's being called. We don't want it to be called here. Not anymore. I want to call it from initialize. So I'm just gonna call it right there at the top. And then we have this one, which can just be deleted. Oh, what is that? Oh, that's uniform buffers. Yeah, well, okay. You have to wait your turn. No more override. And debug output, and this is on the single button, which is also vanishing. Now it should compile and work, and then I can go to bed and have a nice night, sleeping really like a baby, because it works, you know. We can hope, we can dream. I'm already dreaming, can you imagine? What? Doesn't even compile. And you think you can go to bed before 1 AM? Call to non-static member function, create descriptor set of window from nested type frame oh boy. Well, I happen to remember that this is not a problem, because it is do only window, and then we call it. Now you'll see that it is a private function. No member name create descriptor set in task synchronous window. Okay. Have it your way. You really want me to do this? You really want me to do this, right? And it's still going to be private. It just didn't tell me yet, because it wanted me to compile again and then come with the private error. What? What? Okay, it was not private. Well, in that case, are we going to sleep tonight or are we not? Well, at least IMG is working. Oh! This is the end of the stream. Yeah, definitely. Amazing. And tomorrow we'll merge it further, but I already have it in the same thread now. It's going the right way. Thank you for watching, if you are still watching. You don't have just, you know, your browser is still on and YouTube is still playing, but no, okay. End of the stream.